Hello, I'm the Media Wiz, because one art form wasn't enough. So today we're going to be looking at another bad animated ripoff movie, but it's not from Dingo or Video Brinquedo, but it is still from a familiar face, Phoenix Games. Last time we looked at something these people had a hand in making, we talked about Dingo Pictures' magnum opus, Animal Soccer World. Despite that only being good for the so bad it's good crowd who like to make fun of bad media, as a movie itself, it suffered everything that makes Dingo movies suck. Bad animation, awful dubbing, lack of plot or any sense of structure, and just how blatant the material being ripped off was.
Ladies and gentlemen, because there was no winner in this soccer match between the Jungle Kings and the Wild Dogs, I, the Lion King, decided there is gonna be a rematch.
And as a video game, most of the effort went into putting the movie on the disc, and most of the gameplay itself mainly consists of mini-games like puzzles and a paint function. However, this time around, the game/movie isn't from Dingo. No, it's instead from some nobody company called Aqua Pacific, no relation to the plug-and-play guys Jack's Pacific. Before we talk about the product itself, let's look at its infamously bad cover art. Oh yeah, let that sink in. Let that horribly rendered Sir Billy Video Brinquedian-esque nightmare sink in. Oh gee, Snow White and the Seven Clever Boys. I wonder what this is a takeoff of. Right, with a cover like that, let's see how this compares to Video Brinquedo's awful CG plagiarism. This is Snow White and the Seven Clever Boys. We begin in the woods with 2D animation. Oh, thank God. The animation is nothing special, it looks like a more polished version of the CDI cutscenes, but at least it's not horrifying low-budget CG. Anyway, the narrator introduces us to the titular Seven Clever Boys.
And here they are. First, there was Cubby, who was like a small bear.
Because if anything, he looks like that Harold kid from that book about the magic chalk.
And then there was Big Basil, who was huge. Well, for a boy, he was huge.
And now the narrator just tries to tap dance around the fact he just called the kid fat.
And then Sunny, who took care of the plants and the animals.
Oh. Oh no. First the Asian guy from What's Up Balloon to the rescue, and now this. Let's put this in perspective. This came out in 2006. Someone sat there and thought this, which looks like something out of a minstrel show, would be okay for a quote-unquote family short.
And Jacob, who was in charge of keeping order in the forest. Then Michael, who cared for the flowers. And then the professor, who was the most intelligent. And then the seventh boy, Joseph Jr.
I guess had no personality to mention. I mean, they couldn't even give him the occupation of the leader or something. The boys make it back to their shack and find the door wide open, as if somebody's in their house. Like they're trying to bring the three bears into this knockoff of Disney's Snow White.
Oh, there's a funny face on the chimney. Look, and the spook. What is going on?
Think there's going to be some kind of follow-up or explanation for that? No, there isn't. We're just giving them way too much credit. And then we just jump right into a musical number. No proper transition, we're just now inside the shack and we see Snow White over here singing her breakout number.
This is my song, I'll sing it now.
The award for this year's best song in a movie goes to Snow White and the Seven Clever Boys. Yes, that's right, come up, you won the prize! Yeah, not much to say about the song itself. It sounds like they took a stock instrumental from a yoga CD and got someone's mom who was decent at karaoke to sing. Overall, what the song tells us is that Snow White is being hunted by an evil queen who's jealous of her inner and outer beauty. Yeah, I guess the queen is kicking herself that she never mastered the art of the 50s housewife look like Snow did.
It lives in her, in your heart, unlike mine.
You get seated and you repeat yourself.
It has chased me, hunted me.
And they have the black stereotype play jazz music. You know, the more this goes on, I'm starting to think this is another collaboration between Vince Offer and Ari Shaffir. After a crossfade transition, we cut to the boys working in the woods, as the narrator clarifies that they're happy to have Snow White around.
Such noble, brave and clever boys. The next morning, all seven went to the forest and worked as hard as usual because they were happy that they had lovely Snow White to look after, as well as the forest to care for.
Do you think the narrator had any kind of proper script, or do you think they just told him to wing it? Because it seems like he's just making this up as he goes.
They worked and worked and worked and worked. Their work hardly seemed like work at all. It was more fun than work. They were such good boys, weren't they?
I mean, how many times can you keep saying the same thing? The boys were so good, the boys were so pure in nature, they were so humble. We get it, move on. They apparently remembered enough of the Snow White story to now have the narrator tell us that the queen disguises herself as an ugly old woman to give Snow White a poisoned apple. That is CG like the rest of the backgrounds, and bleeds actual blood. And what happens to the queen after that? Hell if I know, she just disappears from the story entirely. I mean, they don't even mention that she falls to her death, something that was shown in the Disney movie. As Snow White falls under the spell of the apple and the boys cry all night long, out of nowhere, a Prince Charming rolls up on his steed, or his bicycle, take your pick, as he plants a kiss on her that breaks the spell. Congratulations! You established a conflict and ended it within the span of a minute and a half. What was that? Did the movie just die? Oh, wait, never mind, there it is.
The 7 clever boys and Snow White and Prince Charming all lived happily ever after, and even after that. And all of them worked together to keep the forests cleaner and greener than ever before.
Environmental message. Can we all give this movie a round of applause for its environmental message, even if it's incredibly forced and phoned in?
And that is the end of the story about Snow White and the 7 clever boys.
That was Snow White and the 7 Clever Boys. It sucks, but not in a shameless cash grab kind of way. More in a baffling, bizarre kind of way. In terms of knockoff movies, it's one of the better ones, just based solely on the fact that it's only 7 minutes long and the animation isn't as bad as Dingo or Brinquedo. The character designs look like low-budget clip art, but it can at least go home knowing that it's not the little cars or what's up. Same thing with the audio quality. The narration in this is leagues above the 2 guys doing all the voices in Animal Soccer World. If anything, this had the exact opposite problem of Animal Soccer World. Whereas that felt like it was Dingo's usual incompetence and laziness, the story in this was really rushed. Most rip-off movies tend to be 40 minutes or so at the very least. I guess they figured most people already knew the story, so it's like they didn't even bother. I mean, you know less about the motivation of the queen or even the origins of the prince in this than you do in the Disney one. And they set up occupations and very minor personality roles for the 7 boys and don't do anything with them. As for gameplay, it's the same thing you expect out of Phoenix games. Paint, function, and puzzle mini-games. I mean, let's face it, the only reason that they put this on a game disc is because they wanted this crap to have shelf space, and I guess DVD companies wouldn't budge, so I guess they only figured the best way to do that was to put it on a PS2 disc in the UK. Considering some of the other stuff I have planned to review this year, this is not going to be the only knockoff movie we're going to be looking at. Oh no, we've got some other bad rip-off movies we're going to be looking at later this year. Until then, I'm the Media Wiz, because one art form wasn't enough.
Hi-ho, hi-ho, hi-ho.